Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Bedside Tabletop, sponsored by Liquid Death. No, I'm just kidding. And tonight we are going to be doing a playthrough of Expeditions, which is a sequel to a game called Scythe, which came out a while ago. It was released by Stonemaier Games and designed by Stonemaier Games owner Jamie Stegmaier. And basically this sequel takes some ideas from the previous game, Scythe, and re-implements them around a new core system for us to play around in. Now this video is a solo playthrough. It's going to be focusing primarily on how the solo mode works, so knowledge of how to play the base game is kind of required in order to enjoy this video. I will be kind of explaining what my actions are as we go along. However, please note that in order to get the best experience out of this video, you should know how to play the base game first, because we will just be focusing on the solo mode, which is designed by the notorious Automa Factory, who have done the solo modes for many Stonemaier games. But basically in Expeditions you will be piloting these big chunky mechs right here. You have a whole world that you can explore. This world is comprised of hexes that you can take actions at. You'll also be doing some card management with cards out here that you will be playing to take other actions. But basically in the game you are trying to satisfy these goals right here on this base camp board. There are many goals. And you are trying to satisfy 4 of them in order to trigger the end of the game, in which both you and the Automa are going to have one final turn, and then whoever has the most coins at the end of the game is going to be the winner. Many different things give you coins, and we'll explain that as we go along. But real quick, let's get into how the Automa works, and then let's start playing. So the Automa is represented out on this board by these 2 mechs. The mech type that you choose for the Automa doesn't really matter. They don't have any special powers that are inherent to that mech. But what you're going to be doing on your turn of the solo mode is you're going to be drawing a card from this Automa deck, and then you'll be resolving every icon on that card. So let's start with the top of the card, which is this blue cube that's shown sliding to the right. Now the Automa has a progress card right here. The blue cube is going to start on the start space, and whenever you see that icon of it moving to the right, you're going to move that cube on the progress card to the right. Now if it ever overlaps an area with a star, that means the Automa has metaphorically put out a star on one of those goals on the board. And stars are going to be worth a specific amount of points at the end of the game. In our case, stars are going to be worth 4 points as denoted by the bottom. And the stars that the Automa puts out are tracked on this Automa Glory card right here. As you can see, you use 2 different color stars, one that's black and one that is blue, to represent the same colors of the Automa. Alright, next is the bulk of the Automa's turn, which are going to be the Automa mech actions. So we have these 2 Automa mechs out here. This blue mech is going to only stay in this northern region of the game, and this black mech is only going to stay in this southern region of the game. So you're going to resolve these Automa mechs from top to bottom, so the blue mech is going to go first. What that first spot up there with the star icon says is if the Automa has 4 stars out, so if it's reached the 4-star progress space on the progress tracker, it's going to be taking that specified action, which in this case it is a corruption action. We'll go into how the corruption action works in the future when we get there. But if it does not have 4 stars out, it's instead going to move the amount of spaces shown at the bottom, which in this case is 3. So in order for the Automa to move 3 spaces, you're simply going to move it 3 spaces along these hexes right here. If you ever move your mech into one of these unexplored spaces, which is a face down space right here, your movement immediately ends and you reveal that unexplored hex. However, the Automa does not reveal an unexplored hex unless it does a map action, which we will get to again in the future. Now if the Automa ever reaches the end of the board right here, it's not going to turn around and start moving back this way. It's actually going to wrap back around over here. And if you are ever within the path of the Automa, they simply are going to disregard the space you're on. So if the Automa is going to move 3 spaces like we see on this card, it's not going to go 1, 2, 3. It's going to go 1, 2, 3. So it's going to completely skip over the space that you're on. And as you can see with the bottom part of this card right here, this black mech is going to move 2 spaces in the middle section right here. So that is the basic gist of how you're going to be resolving these Automa cards and how the Automa is going to score. And if you do run out of Automa cards to draw, you're going to reshuffle this deck and then draw from that reshuffled deck. However, you must always remember to take out 2 cards from the deck whenever you reshuffle it, so you can't really card count what the Automa is going to do. It makes it a little less predictable. And just to go over how the Automa scores again, the Automa is going to score for map tokens, corruption, and stars that it puts out at the end of the game. As you can see on the bottom of this card right here, they're each going to be worth their weight in coins, which again are the points that you want to have at the end of the game. Whoever has the most wins. And we'll talk about how they gain that corruption and those map tokens when those actions come up. But right now, let's just jump into the game. So we're going to determine who goes first by flipping this coin right here. We'll say that heads is going to be us and tails is going to be the Automa. So let's go ahead and flip it. Alright, tails, that means the Automa is going to go first. This is good because then you get a hands-on example of how the Automa works right out the bat. So let's go ahead and draw a card from our Automa deck, and this is what it looks like. This is a good spread of Automa actions to go over, but first we gotta resolve the progress on top of here. So the Automa is going to gain 1 progress. Then we're going to check the blue mech, the northern mech. Now, if the Automa had 4 stars out, it would take this corruption action and gain 1 corruption, but it doesn't. So all the Automa is going to do is it's going to move. So the Automa is going to move that northern mech 1 space. So it's going to move 1 space as shown on the bottom, and that's very simple. Bam. Northern mech turn done. Alright, and then let's resolve that final Automa mech. Now right here we can see that it's going to take the explore action if it has 0 or more stars, and it doesn't have any stars out right now, so it's going to take this action regardless. So let's go ahead and see how an explore action works. Now whenever you take these actions and not just movements, you're always going to be looking at least 3 spaces ahead of the Automa mech. And what we're looking for with the map action is we're looking for an unexplored hex that has a map token. And what do you know, right in front of it is an unexplored hex that has a map token on it. So it's going to move to that space right here. It's going to gain this map token into its possession. And again, map tokens are going to be worth 1 point for the Automa at the end of the game. And then it's going to flip over this hex right here. And what do we get? Okay, we get number 12, the fishing village. If we gather here, which is one of the actions of the game that allows you to take the benefit on the hex that you're on. If we gather here, we gain a guile and a power, or we can also take the boast action, which is the action that allows us to put out the stars onto the goal board if we have fulfilled some of those goals. However, since this is a newly revealed tile in Expeditions, you must put corruption from this bag right here. Corruption kind of thematically is spreading from these meteorites which are destroying the land or whatever, but it's kind of just another way to gain points that you spend resources to grab. But it's going to work the same way in the multiplayer game. You're going to take a look at that number right there, and you're going to draw a corruption from the bag. So right here we have a 5 orange corruption, and if it meets that number, which was 5, then you are just going to leave it right there on that spot. If it did not meet that number, so if it was less than 5, you would then place it on that area and then draw another corruption from the bag. And basically, in order to grab this corruption right here, what we need to do is spend an amount of power, because this corruption is orange like power, that's equal to the number on that corruption. So we want to spend 5 power in order to gain that corruption. And we do that through a vanquish action, which happens when we play cards. Again, very similar to the multiplayer game. But yeah, that's the Automa's turn out of the way. As you can see, Pretty quick, pretty simple to resolve. Let's get on to our turn. Now, we are playing Odin's Wrath, which is honestly probably my second favorite mech in the whole game. It's like a cool Viking ship combined with a mech. And the power that Odin's Wrath has is you can trash a map at any time on your turn to gain a power, a guile, or just 1 money. And you gain those map tokens by exploring unexplored hexes out on the board. So that's pretty cool. But on our turn, what we're going to do is move our cube from this refresh area to this spot right here, just like in the multiplayer game. And then we're going to take all the uncovered actions on our board. So on our turn, we'll be able to move, play, and gather. Now we do have this character right here, Akiko. Akiko is going to allow us to gain a power when we play her at the top of this card. And then if we put a yellow worker on here, we can activate her ability, which allows us to gain 1 face-up meteorite from the board. Face-up cards are the cards that are in between those hex spaces out on the board that you saw. Or we can solve. And solving in the solo game works the same way as in the multiplayer game. So that's who we have with Akiko. And then we have Jiro right here, who allows us to activate the previous card that we just played, or we can vanquish. So again, vanquishing is how we gain those corruption tokens, like that 5 corruption token I showed you earlier. If we had 5 power and we vanquished, we could spend 5 power in order to gain that orange corruption. And for that other part of that ability, since you play cards from the left to the right of your hand and order matters on the right side, you kind of play it in a row. If we had played Akiko earlier, that power would have allowed us to activate Akiko's power. So it's basically, if you don't want to vanquish, you can take the power of the previous card that you played. So that's pretty interesting. Now, looking at the board, we do have 3 face-up meteor cards. We've got the Fuel Stone right here. We've got the Mind Stone right here. So I think playing Akiko's card would not only gain us a power, which would allow us to reach that threshold of gaining that corruption that's on that board, but we could also gain one of those face-up meteorites and see if any of them are any good. But we're not going to play Akiko just yet, because in order to activate her power right here, we must have a yellow worker to play on our card. So right now, we're going to move to a spot on the board that gives us a yellow worker. We're going to gather from that spot, which will gain us the yellow worker, and then we'll finally play Akiko and grab a face-up meteorite card. So already right here, I see that 2 spots away from me, this isolated settlement is going to allow me to gain a blue or a yellow worker, which is quite nice. So we're going to take our move action, which is the same as in the multiplayer game. Basically, you must move 1 to 3 spaces on your move action. You cannot end in the same place that you begun. And if you enter one of the face-down unexplored tiles, you're going to gain the map token, but it does end your movement and you flip over that tile. So let's go ahead and move to this isolated settlement so we can gather from it and gain a worker for Akiko's card. So we're going to go 1, 2, we're going to forfeit that final 3rd movement that we had. Then we're going to take the gather action and we're going to grab this yellow worker from the supply. We'll put it out on our board. It's going to be readily available for us to use, and let's go ahead and take the play action. Alright, so we're going to play Akiko right here onto our active area, which is the right side of your board. Now we're going to gain the core value of Akiko real quick, which is going to be this top left symbol right here, which means we gain 1 power. If we did have 1 or 2 stars out, we would get more power and even a guile, but we don't right now. And then we are also going to take our worker and place it on this yellow spot right here, and we're going to activate Akiko's ability, which allows us to gain 1 face-up meteorite. So let's take a look at the face-up meteorites on the board and see if we want any of them. Now, real quick, we've got a Mind Stone right here. Now, the Mind Stone would give us a guile. It does take a yellow worker, which is good because we have one in the supply. It allows us to place a worker on an active card to activate its ability. So that's pretty interesting. It would allow us to activate a card on our active area a second time if we haven't placed a worker on it. We have the Fuel Stone right here, which gives us a guile and allows us to vanquish. And we have this Aid Stone right here, which gives us a power and also allows us to vanquish. Now, as you can see, there's also a threshold right here. here, which allows us to take another benefit if we reach it when we activate this card with a worker of the same color. In this case, it's going to be if we have 2 melded meteorites, we gain a guile per orange corruption that we would vanquish with that vanquish action. Now, what is melding meteorites? So on meteorite cards, you have this benefit right here that you only gain if you meld it. Melding is an action that you take by gathering it out on the board. We do not have a melding spot out yet. But basically, you're going to slide it under your mech, like so, and you're going to take that benefit whenever you meld that card. And when you meld another meteorite, you're going to take all of the benefits from your previous meteorites, including the meteorite you're just melding. However, you can only meld 4 meteorites, so you want to pick those benefits really carefully. So let's look at the benefits of these meteorite cards. This one is gain 1 money per orange corruption for a maximum of 3 money. So if we had orange corruption on our board, up to 3 of those we would gain 3 money. This one is gain 1 money per turquoise corruption. This one is gain 1 money per placed worker, and all of these are of a maximum of 3. I think what we want is this aid stone right here, which is going to allow us to vanquish. It will give us power, and also if we meld it, it's going to give us money for orange corruption that we gather, and we do have orange corruption on the board, that 5 corruption token that you saw earlier, so I think this would probably be the most useful for us right now. So we're going to gain this card because of Akiko's ability, and whenever we gain a card, you put it in your active area and you add it to the row. So you're not able to activate it because you're gaining it, but in a future turn, when you refresh and all these cards go back to your hand, will be able to use it. And real quick, we're going to fill that void that it created with a card from the top of the deck right there. And ooh, we get a quest card, salvage an idle mech. Alright, but that is the end of our turn. We moved, we gathered, we played. That's all we can do on our turn. Let's go to the Automa. Let's go to our Automa mechs. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a card from the top of the deck, and let's take a look and see what it does. So they are going to gain a progress right here. So they're going to move up on that progress card, and that does cover that star space right there. So they get to put out their first star, and they do not put these stars out on the goal board. They just put these in their supply, and again, they're going to be worth 4 coins at the end of the game. So right now with this pool and their supply right here, they have a total of 5 coins. Alright, but that's not all. Let's go ahead and resolve our northern mech first. Now, the Automa does not have 6 stars out. They just got their first star, so they won't be doing that action. So they're just going to move 3 spaces. So we'll move our northern mech 1, 2, 3. And again, they don't explore the tile unless there's an explore action on their card. And let's resolve the bottom mech right here. Now, as you can see in this area, the bottom mech is going to take a sweep action before it does a move action. Basically, in Expeditions, sweeping means removing cards to a discard pile. And how that works for the Automa is they're going to sweep every card that's adjacent to them. So this card right here and this card right here are adjacent to this black mech right here, which again is the mech on the bottom and the one that is resolving the sweep action. So it's going to sweep these 2 cards. They're going to be removed, and then 2 new cards are going to come out. We've got Find a Former Factory Engineer, which is a quest card, and a Deceptor Crystal, which is an item card. And then after that sweep action, they're going to take their move action. Now they do have 1 star that they just gained, so the black Automa is going to be taking an explore action. As we saw earlier, it's going to look 1 to 3 spaces ahead of it and find a space that has a map token and an unexplored tile. Now, right here, we have an unexplored tile with a map token, so it's going to move into this area, gain that map token, and flip over this explored tile right here. And what do we get? We get the impact zone. So the impact zone is going to give us 2 power, or we can meld cards at the impact zone. And again, we have a meteorite in our active area that we could use to meld. However, that meld spot is going to be covered up with some corruption, and we need to place at least 5 corruption on that tile. So let's see what we get. Okay, we get an orange corruption. However, it's only a value of 4, so we're going to have to draw another corruption token. And ooh, unfortunately, it's a teal corruption, and it's a value of 5. And what we do is we place that right on top of that corruption over there. So if we ever vanquish at this area and spend our guile and power to grab these corruption tokens, we must first spend the guile for this teal corruption in order to get to that 4 power corruption. Alright, and that's the Automa turn over. I do want to note real quick that in the rule book it does say that the Automa checks the next 0 to 3 locations. So if anything satisfies these conditions on the Automas right here, they will also check the hex that they are currently on. That's my bad, so technically the fishing village should not have come out. It should have been this tile that the black Automa mech was originally on, but we're just going to take it as it is and move forward with that information. It's not like it really affects us in a way that gives us a huge advantage over the Automa. Okay, but let's get to our turn. And since this action marker is in this box right here, we have to move it along one of these 3 arrows into any one of these spaces right here. Now, we do have Jiro, who's still in our hand. We could play Jiro. However, I don't think activating the previous card's ability, which would be the Aid Stone, is very helpful because there's no corruption on the spot that we're at. And we don't even have a lot of power and guile to vanquish that corruption anyway. So I think what we want to do is we either want to gain workers to help us activate these cards' abilities, or we want to get some cards. So we want to grab from the deck of cards, or we want to grab from the face-up cards. And I think what we want to do is we want to get more cards into our hands. So what we're going to do is we're going to move this cube to cover the play action, and we're only going to take the move and the gather action. So let's go over to the board. And again, we can move 1 to 3 spaces, and we have 2 hexes right here that are going to allow us to gain cards, but in 2 different ways. Now this hex right here, this symbol means we are going to draw 2 cards from the top of the deck, and we're going to keep 1 and add it to our active row. This symbol right here means that we can take any face-up card on the board. Now, looking at the cards out here that I might want, there are these 2 quests right here, which can be completed in this southern area because they're numbers 1 to 5. Basically, in order to solve a quest, you must be on the tile that has the same number as that quest card you're trying to solve. And we are in the southern region, so we could try to solve for some quests. There's also an item out here that I'm kind of interested in, the Deceptor Crystal. Basically, if we put a yellow worker on it, we can gather, and then whenever we gather, we can pay 1 guile to include a gather benefit covered by corruption in that location. So that basically means if we gathered in a location with corruption, we could take both that gather benefit, and if we put a yellow worker on that card, we could take the gather benefit that's also covered by the corruption on that tile. So you know what? That sounds quite good to me. So I think we're going to grab that Deceptor Crystal. So let's go ahead and take our movement. So 1 to 3 spaces. We're going to move 1, 2 right onto this airship wreckage spot. And then we're going to gather. So we're going to grab any face-up card, and we're going to take this Deceptor Crystal and put it into our active row. Again, and I'm not always going to keep showing this, don't worry, but whenever we gain a card, we put it in our active row, and it must continue that line of cards. In this case, since this is such a table hockey game and I don't have a lot of space for it, we're just going to treat these as if they were a column. We're going to go left to right, top to bottom. So 1, 2, 3. This would be the 3rd played card in our hand if we played it. So we gain it to our active row, and then when we refresh, we could use it in the future. And the card that's replacing it is a quest in the northern region, and its ability is trash a map token to move to any revealed location and gain a guile. Ooh, that's kind of powerful. And again, don't forget we have our anytime ability right here, which allows us to trash a map token anytime to gain a power, guile, or just 1 money. Alright, but it is our Automa's turn now. Our turn is over, so let's go ahead and reveal their Automa card. And it's going to be this. So our Automa is going to gain a progress. Alright, it's going to move right there. They do not gain a star from that. And then the northernmost mech is going to take a sweep action. So it is going to sweep all cards adjacent to it. So this Salvage an Idle Mech quest and this Find a Former Factory Engineer quest are going to be swept away, which sucks because I kind of had my eyes on that Salvage an Idle Mech quest because its ability allows us to activate any face-up item card on the board. So that was kind of good, and they were also easy quests to solve. However, we got to put these guys away. and then reveal new cards. So we've got another quest. It's also in the 5 area. And then we've got an item, the Occult Nexus. Ooh, that sounds that sounds a little Lovecraftian. Alright, and then if our Automa had 3 stars out, which it doesn't, it would have taken an Explore action. However, it's just going to move 1 space. So it's going to move right here. Ka-chunk. Okay, and then our final mech, our Automa does not have 4 stars out, thank goodness. So it's just going to move 2 spaces. Bzzzt, bzzzt. That's the sound that one makes. This one's ka-chunk because it's so big. This one's bzzz because it's light. Does this remind anyone of the Striders from Half-Life 2, by the way? I don't know. This one's my favorite mech, by the way. I think this one's the coolest. Alright, but yeah, Automa turn done. Pretty quick. Let's get to our turn. Now, we still have Jiro in our hand, but we do not have a blue worker that we can use to activate Jiro's ability, again, like last turn. But we can't move and gather to gain a worker. Because we did that last time. So what I think we're going to do is we're going to go for those unexplored locations because we want map tokens to use our special power. And we'll just play Jiro in order to gain that guile that he's got right there. So let's go ahead and play Jiro. Jiro's going to go right there. Again, order matters. We're going left to right, top to bottom, blah, blah, blah. And from Jiro, we're going to gain 1 guile. So we'll move our guile up. Now we've got an equal amount of power and guile. Now let's get to our movement. Alright, we have a choice. We can move to here and reveal this tile, or we can move to here and reveal this tile. What I want to do is I want to reveal this tile right here, just in case this Automa mech right here gets anything that pertains to corruption. So if we do reveal this tile and corruption comes out, it can't then grab that corruption. So let's go ahead and reveal this tile right here. So again, we have a movement of 1 to 3. So we're going to go, I don't know what sound this one would make. Because water is a boat. I don't know. We're going to move into there. We're going to gain the map token right here. So let's put that into a supply. Again, we can trash at any time to gain a power or a guile or 1 money. So that could help us with vanquishing if we do that in the future. And let's go ahead and reveal this tile right here. It is the Crater Rim. That sounds like a really good doom metal album name. Crater Rim. It's number 8, and what this means is when we gather from the Crater Rim, we can sweep any amount of face-up cards on the board, and we can take a reset action. And this reset is kind of like a refresh action, but we don't actually move our cube into the refresh spot. So it's kind of helpful because it gives us all our workers and our cards back without losing us a turn. But we do have to put corruption on this guy. This is an upgrade action, by the way, which only pertains to item cards. But it is going to be covered up with some corruption. So let's see what corruption we get. We've got another power corruption. Nice. This one is a 3 value corruption, though. And we need to get at least a value of 5 corruption on that tile. So we're going to draw from the bag again. Alright, and we've got a 4 value power corruption that we're going to put on top of here. So that's the end of our turn. Let's go to the Automa's turn. Automa, flip over the card. Automa, see what we get. The Automa is going to gain 1 progress, so it's going to move up on its progress card, but it still does not gain a star. Then if the Automa had at least 3 stars, it would take a corruption action, but it does not, so that northernmost Automa is just going to move 1 space. Chunk. And then that bottommost Automa is going to move 3 spaces, so I forget the sound it makes. Who cares? Zzz, zzz. And then it's going to wrap back around to this tile right here. Zzz, like that. Alright, but Automa action done. Let's get to our action. Now, this space that we ended on is actually quite useful because if we gather here, we can sweep and we can reset our cards, which means that we can play those cards that we then reset. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this off screen, I'm going to move our yellow cube, and I'm going to cover up the move action, which only leaves the play and the gather actions revealed. And first what I'm going to do is I'm going to gather. So I can take this sweep action, but honestly I don't really want to do that because some cards out here I am looking at, such as the Occult Nexus, and the repairing a damaged mech quest. Maybe let's go ahead and trash these 2 meteorites since they're really not immediately useful to us, and we do want more cards out that give us power since there's a lot of power corruption on the board right now. And we'll refill these spots. But right now we did our sweep action, and then we're going to do our refresh action. Now again, this isn't an actual refresh action. We don't move the cube onto the refresh space and end our turn there. We simply are going to pretend like it's a refresh action. We take all our workers back on our cards, and we get all the cards back into our hand. Alright, so we took our gather action, and now we can play. Now we can't really take a vanquish action because the corruption on that hex is 4 at the top, and we only have like 1 power there. And I doubt we're going to gain 3 power in order to vanquish on that turn. Now our Deceptor Crystal isn't too useful because I don't want to gather on that space again. And these 2 here aren't too useful either because they mostly pertain to vanquish actions and we can't vanquish. So really we can only play Akiko. And we do have a yellow worker to activate Akiko's ability, and we can choose to gain 1 face-up meteorite. Now there is only 1 face-up meteorite on the board, which is the quest stone. It's going to give us power, but if we put a red worker, it allows us to gain 1 face-up quest to your hand. And then if we meld it, we would gain 1 coin per quest that we control for a max of 3. Now cards you control are in your hand or in your active area. Cards that you tuck under your mech like this are no longer in your control, even though it's part of your mech. It's kind of weird like that. But, so yeah, I would only gain this benefit if I had quests in my hand or in my active area. But still, I think I want to go ahead and use Akiko's power to grab that quest stone, just because it also gives us a power. So we're going to take our play action and we're going to play Akiko right here. We're going to gain 1 power, and we're going to use our yellow worker in order to activate Akiko's power, which is gain 1 face-up meteorite, and we'll gain the quest stone into our active row. And again, when we gain a card, we can't place a worker on it, and we don't gain the core value of the card. Alright, so our turn is over. We'll draw that Automa card. Ooh, okay, so the Automa is not going to progress this turn. However, they are still going to move. Now, this northernmost Automa does not have 3 stars, so it's just going to move 2 spaces. It's going to wrap around, ka-chunk, ka-chunk. And then the southernmost Automa is only going to move 1 space. Zzzt, right there onto the fishing village. Alright, and it's back to our turn. Again, the Automa is so easy to resolve and fast in this game. I really like what the Automa Factory was able to come up with. What I think we're going to do on our turn after much deliberation is we're going to move our cube right here, and we're going to cover up the gather action. So we're just going to move and play. Now, why am I doing this? Well, I just realized I also forgot to fill this void right here. Sorry. It's the quest Weaken the Leviathan. But it's not like any of the Automas would have affected it because it wasn't even within sweep range. So I think what we want is we want more workers because we do want to use this Deceptor Crystal to our advantage. So in the future we can then get to vanquishing some corruption. Now what I think we want to do is we want to gain some workers on this isolated settlement, so we can use our Deceptor Crystal, and that Deceptor Crystal takes a yellow worker. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my action cube and cover the play action, so we're just going to move and gather on this turn. We're going to move 1 to 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, onto the isolated settlement, and we're going to gather, a yellow worker. Alright, that's the end of my turn. Let's go to the Automa's turn. Let's flip that card. Okay, the Automa is going to gain a progress, like so. That still does not let them reach that 2-star space. So the northernmost Automa is not going to take that corruption action. It's just going to move 3 spaces. So it's going to go chunk, 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 and then that bottommost Automa can't take that action either because it doesn't have 2 stars, so it's just going to go ka-chunk. Now, it's our turn. What do we want to do? Now, since we do have this Deceptor Crystal that allows us to gather, and we've got the yellow worker that can allow us to activate that ability, we could potentially move, play, and gather on our turn. Because we can move, we can play, and then with the Deceptor Crystal, we'll be able to gather. Because when we place a yellow worker on it, it allows us to gather. Now, I am kind of curious to see what comes out here, and we do want those exploration tokens. So I'm going to go ahead and cover up gather, and we're going to move and play on our turn. We're simply going to move into this unexplored tile right here. So let's go ahead, grab that map token, put it into our supply, and then flip over this tile. Okay, we get the warehouse. This symbol right here, of course, is meld a card. And this symbol right here is when you gather from it, you get to take an adjacent face-up card. So that would mean this card right here, recover a stolen map quest, or this card right here, the weaken the Leviathan quest. But we also have to put out corruption on this tile right here, so let's draw from our baggie. Alright, and we gain a 5 guile corruption. So we're going to put it right there. It does exactly equal 5, so we don't draw any more. Okay, and then we're going to play. Now, I don't think we're actually going to play our Deceptor Crystal because I don't really want to grab one of those adjacent cards, and I don't want to spend a guile to meld a meteorite card just yet. So I think we're just going to play this Aid Stone right here. We don't have a worker to place on it, so we can't take the Vanquish action, but we don't have enough guile to vanquish that 5 corruption token anyway. So we're just going to gain 1 power from it. And we're building up to hopefully vanquish on one of our future 2 turns. I promise, the action's going to get there. We just got to build up our cards a little bit. Alright, but now it's the Automa's turn. Let's go ahead and draw a card for them. Okay, they are going to gain 1 progress. Alright, 1 progress. And this does mean that they are going to put out their 2nd star right here. They're going to put it into their supply. Alright, let's go ahead and move our Automa mechs. Our Automa mechs don't have 4 stars out yet, so the top one isn't going to take that corruption action. But the northernmost mech is going to move 3 spaces. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk. It's going to wrap around, ka-chunk. And then that southernmost mech is going to move 2 spaces. So, bzz, bzz. Okay, and it's now our turn. Now, what I think we want to do is we want to move and gather because we want to gain red workers since we've already got 2 cards that require red workers. So we're going to move out and then gather a red worker. So from right here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3 to the sawmill. And that's our movement, and we're going to gather, and we're going to gain a red worker to our supply. Okay, it's Automi's turn. Let's draw for the Automa. They are going to gain a progress, so they don't get a new star just yet. Now that top Automa is going to sweep, so it's going to sweep all adjacent cards, so this recover a stolen map quest is going to be swept away. We do get a Brave Stone, which is another meteorite that allows you to vanquish that I'm also not too crazy about. And then if it had 3 stars, it would take an exploration action, but it doesn't, so it's just going to move 3 spaces. And then if the bottom one had 4 stars, it would take a corruption action, but it doesn't, so it's just going to move 3 spaces as well. Alright. Since we're on a worker spot that gives us a green or a red worker, I think I want more workers. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move this cube over the move spot and we're going to play and gather. So first we're going to gather right here and gain a red worker right over here. And then for our play action, we are going to use the Deceptor Crystal. We're going to put our little guy right there. And that Deceptor Crystal does allow us to gather if we put a worker on it. So we're going to gather a green worker. And let's not forget our Deceptor Crystal also gives us a power. So we'll play it to our active row right there, and our power goes up, up, up 1 track. Alright, let's go to the Automa. They are going to gain 1 progress. So let's move that guy over here. They're 3 spots away from gaining their 3rd star. And then we're going to do our mech movement. Alright, so our northernmost mech cannot complete that 20 corruption action. So it's just going to move 2 spaces. However, our southernmost mech is going to complete a sweep action. So it's going to sweep the Occult Nexus away, which kind of sucks because its power was when you vanquish, first gain the core values of all adjacent face-up cards. So that means if we vanquished here, we could gain the core values of all 3 of those cards that were around there. Maybe I should have paid a little more attention to that. But let's see what card comes out. We get another meteorite, the Sunstone, and again, it's a meteorite. It lets us vanquish, and if we put a yellow worker on it. Alright, and the Automa does have 2 stars out, so this mech is going to do an Explore action. And we did that boo-boo last time with the Explore action, but we're not going to let history repeat itself. It is going to explore right here on this hex. So let's go ahead and take this map token and then flip this guy over. And we get number 13, the research base. If we gather there, we gain 2 guile. And then we're going to put out our corruption. We have a 3 guile corruption, but we need at least 5 on that space. So we're going to draw 1 more. Hopefully it's a power. No, it's not. It is a guile corruption, and it is a 3 guile corruption. All right, Automa's done though. Let's get back to our turn. Man, I don't look good in this lighting. Now what we're going to do for our turn, I know, I said I was going to vanquish within 1 to 2 turns, but we are going to refresh so we can use these cards with the red workers we just gained. So we're going to take these yellow workers back. We've got a supply of 5 workers, and one of the goals is have 7 workers, so we are 2 workers away from being able to satisfy that goal. But let's go ahead and take all these cards back into our hand. Alright, and I should have mentioned that this is only my 2nd time playing this game, so please bear with me. I am trying to get better at building up my engine, but games don't really come that quickly to me. But let's go ahead and draw the Automa card. Alright, interesting. Okay, they don't gain a progress, but they will be doing some move actions. Alright. So, as per our Automa card, the northernmost Automa is going to take an exploration action because it has enough stars. So it's going to explore right here. It's going to gain the map token. And then, let's see what we get. We get the encampment. It's number 16. And it allows us to boast and gain a face-up card. But let's go ahead and put our corruption out on that tile. So we have another guile corruption. Not great because we want power corruption. Okay, and we get another guile corruption. It's a 5 guile corruption. Alright, and let's resolve our bottom mech. It's only going to move 1 space. Bzzt. Alright guys, but fortune favors the patient because we are going to move our cube into this area and we're going to be able to move, play, and gather on our turn. Now I definitely want to do some vanquishing on this turn. This area right here, the crater rim, it does have a lot of power corruption. It has a total of 7 power corruption. However, if we do play our aid stone to vanquish, we will gain 1 power and I can spend these 2 map tokens in order to gain 2 more power. And then the benefit that is revealed under here is upgrading, so we can actually then use that to upgrade our Deceptor Crystal right here when we gather from that space after we vanquish that corruption. So let's go ahead and use our move action. Again, we're going to move, play, and gather on our turn. We're going to move into the crater rim. Step 1. Okay, we did our movement. Step 2, we're going to play. We're going to play the aid stone right over here into our active area. We gain 1 power for that. And we're going to play our red worker on top of it so we gain its vanquish ability. Then we're also going to spend these 2 map tokens right here, which we can do at any time thanks to our mech power. And we're going to gain 7 power. And since the crater rim has a total of 7 power corruption, 4 plus 3, which is 7, we're going to spend all that power during our vanquish action to grab these 2 corruption tokens. And these are going to be worth 2 money at the end of the game. And if we get 7 of them, we can put out a star onto the goal board. Alright, now I'd like to remind you that since we removed that corruption, this upgrade action is available on the crater rim. So we're going to gather. We're not going to take the sweep and refresh action. We're going to take the upgrade action and we're going to upgrade our Deceptor Crystal. Now we can upgrade this Deceptor Crystal because we do control it. It's in our hand. So let's go ahead and tuck it under here. And now for the rest of the game, we have the ongoing benefit of whenever we gather, we can pay 1 guile to include a benefit covered by corruption on our location. And also, on the Deceptor Crystal, it has a value right here. That's how much money we're going to get for having this item upgraded at the end of the game. So it is worth 4 points. So we've got a total of 4, 6, 8 points. Whereas the Automa has a total of 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points. Not too bad. We're not too far behind. So that was our turn. Our player area is already getting a little cluttered. But let's go ahead and take that Automa's turn. It is going to gain 1 progress. So let's go ahead and move that guy over there. That top mech is going to take the exploration action. So we're going to look at the tiles 0 to 3 spaces away from it. This tile right here is the closest, so it's going to gain that exploration token. It's going to move into that tile, and what do we get? We get the observatory. It's number 14, and whenever we gather here, we just gain a map token, which is useful to us, but we also need to put at least 8 corruption on that space, so let's go ahead and grab some. We've got a 4 corruption guile, which obviously isn't enough to make 8, so let's grab another. And then we've got another 4 guile corruption, which totals up 8. Alright, and then this bottom mech can't do that corruption action just yet, so it's going to move 2 spaces. Bzzzt. And then we're right in the middle of its path, so it's going to disregard our space, bzzzt, and move on to this one right here. Now I think what we want is we want quests, because we want to start putting out those stars, and we want those stars to be worth points. Because again, based on how many quests you've completed, stars get worth more and more points. So let's go out, get some quests. But I also want to explore out on the board because I want those map tokens, and I also want to see what else comes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover gather. We're going to move and play. So right now we're going to use this quest stone right here, which allows us to gain 1 face-up quest to your hand, which is cool because it doesn't go in the active row, it goes in your hand, so you can actually use it on a future turn. So let's go ahead and play our quest stone. It's going to give us its core value, which is going to be 1 power, and then we're going to place a red worker on it and gain 1 face-up quest to our hand. Now we've got 3 quests out here we can go for. We can go for repair a damaged mech, weaken the Leviathan, or find a secret passage. And we do have a green worker, so we could use the abilities on both these cards in a future turn. Alright, now what I like about weaken the Leviathan is it is going to gain us guile. It says gain 3 guile if your mech is in the north, 2 guile if it's in the central, or 1 if it's in the south. But it's also going to give us a power if we play it. So I like that. And I'm also going to be moving into the northern area, so maybe we could reveal that 19 tile that we need to be on in order to complete that quest. So we could get lucky here, let's see. So we're going to put weaken the Leviathan into our hand, and we're going to complete our move action. Alright, which one do I think is going to be the lucky winner? Is it going to be that one or that one? Touch a tiger by its tail. This one. Let's go towards this one. And that one's good because it is far away from this mech right here. So if we do reveal corruption and it can take a corruption action, it won't be able to grab that corruption. So let's go. 1, 2. We'll go ahead and grab this map token. And let's flip over this tile, see what we get. Drum roll, everyone, please. 17. We only get 17. Alright, that doesn't correlate to our quest. However, this is the ice cave. It's a pretty powerful area. Sorry, I forgot to refill this space right here. However, this is the ice cave. It's a pretty powerful area. If you gather here, you gain 1 purple worker, 1 coin, and when you take away that corruption, you get to also upgrade on top of those 2 benefits. So let's go ahead and put out at least 8 corruption on that puppy. Alright, we get 3 guile, and then 4 guile, but that's still for a total of 7, so let's see what else we get. 5 power. Alright, let's put that guy right up there. So this one's pretty heavily stacked with corruption, but again, remember we have that Deceptor crystal that we upgraded onto our mech that says whenever we gather, we can pay a guile to include a benefit covered by corruption on our location. But yeah, that's the end of our turn. Let's go to the Automa. And this is the final card in the Automa deck, so we'll be reshuffling after this one. The Automa is going to gain 1 progress. Alright, so it's just going to be 1 space away from putting out its 3rd star. We haven't put out any stars just yet. Alright, and the Automa definitely doesn't have 7 stars, so the northernmost mech is going to move 3 spaces. 1, 2, 3. But uh-oh, the Automa is going to take an explore action with its southernmost mech. And it is on an explorable tile, so it's going to gain 1 of those map tokens. And it reveals 11, the mining town. And when you gather at the mining town, this symbol means that you get to play a card from your hand to your active row. And we also have to put at least 5 corruption on there, and we gain a 5 guile corruption. That's such a fun word to say, guile. Guile. It like fills your mouth. Guile. You know what else fills your mouth? Liquid Death, Mango Chainsaw, sparkling water flavor. Oh, jeez. Okay, let's get to our turn. Alright, so what we want to do on our turn is we want to gather and move, because I want to see what's going on with this tile right here. And I also want to gather the benefit from this tile right here. So I'm going to use my action marker to cover up the play action spot. And let's go ahead and gather where we are. We gain a purple worker and we gain a coin. Our first coin of the game. How exciting. Now, as per our Deceptor Crystal, we could spend a guile to take the action that's covered by this corruption, but that's an upgrade action right there, and we don't have any cards we control that can be upgraded. So it's a bit of a waste doing that, but that's all right. Let's go ahead and take our movement. And we're going to move into this hex right here. Let's grab that map token. And what do we get? Hopefully we get 19. Whoa, all right, we did get 19. It's the Stormy Sea. So if we gather here, we can sweep this symbol. What the heck does that symbol mean? That symbol means gain 1 benefit from an adjacent location. So if we gather here, we gain the sweep. And then if this location or that location is revealed, we can gain the benefit from that location. And then we're going to put at least 8 corruption on here, but we can also boast, which is how we get our stars out. And we are 1 worker away from being able to put out a star. So you know what? Not bad. Let's go ahead and add some corruption to that spot. We need to add at least 8. We get a 3 power corruption. We get a 4 guile corruption. And then we gain a 3 power corruption. All right, we'll add that right there. And again, thanks to that Deceptor Crystal, we can still boast here if we pay a guile. Gaining that crystal was a great idea. I'm so smart. Alright, but now it's the Automa's turn, and we're going to shuffle up for the Automa. Alright, and then we're going to remove 2 cards from the deck, and then let's draw our first Automa card. So the Automa will gain 1 progress. And unfortunately, that 1 progress does mean the Automa puts out its 3rd star. Ugh! But that's still not enough for that top Automa to take the corruption action, so it's just going to move 2 spaces. Again, ignoring the space I'm on. So 1, 2. And then that bottom mech is going to take an explore action. So we're going to look 0 to 3 spaces away from it. And this hex can be explored right there. So it's going to move here. Take that exploration token, and it's going to reveal the weird forest. So we can also gain purple workers here, and we can also meld meteorites once we vanquish that corruption. So let's go ahead and add some corruption on top to it. We have to add at least 5. We've got a 4 power corruption, and we've got, a 5 power corruption. All right, that's going to be a hard one to uncorrupt. All right, but now it's our turn, and what we are going to do is we are going to gather and play, because I do believe we will be able to boast on our turn. So let's go ahead and gather first. So we are going to gather on the Stormy Sea. Now it does allow us to sweep some cards. I think I'm going to sweep these 3 cards because I want some cards that have purple workers. So we get a Befriend a Local Legend quest. That one's a yellow worker. We get a Coal Stone, which needs a purple worker. Awesome. It does give us 1 money per 5 value corruption, though we do not have one of those. And then this guy needs a red worker. It's Clear the Blockade Bridge. And if we put a red worker on it, if we have 0 to 2 cards in our hand, we gain 2 power. Otherwise, we would gain 1 guile. So that would be an easy one to complete if we did grab it. Okay, so we're done with our sweep. We're going to gain 1 benefit from an adjacent location. Now this means 1 benefit, not all of the benefits. But what we're going to do is going to gain a purple guy from the ice cave again. Alright, and I keep bringing it up, but that Deceptor Crystal, since we upgraded it, and we gathered, we can spend 1 guile to include a benefit covered by corruption on your location, which is the boast benefit. Alright, and why is that cool? Well, because that means we can take the boast action. So, we've got 1 guile, we can spend that, and use our Deceptor Crystal to allow us to take that boast action since it's covered by corruption at our location. And if you count up all the workers we have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we can essentially boast and fulfill this objective. So we're going to put our star on it because we have 7 workers. Alright, but that's not all because we're done gathering, but we still get to play. Now, if we played a Kiko, we could gain a face-up meteorite or we could solve. We are on the area where the Weaken the Leviathan quest can be solved. However, I don't want to get rid of that one just yet. Now there is 1 meteorite on the board we can grab with a Kiko's power, the Coal Stone. It does give us 1 money per 5 value corruption we vanquish, but we don't have any of that, so I don't want to use that power. We can't use Jiro, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the Weaken the Leviathan quest card. We're going to play it into our active row. We're going to gain the core value, which is 1 power, and then we're going to place a green worker on it, and its power is gain 3 guile if you're in the northmost region, 2 guile if you're in the central, 1 guile if you're in the southmost region. And we are currently in the northernmost region, so we gained 3 guile. So not only did we gain 1 power, we gained 3 guile. That is pretty sweet. Let it also be known that in order to solve a quest, you also have to pay the cost right here. So if I had to solve this, I'd have to be on the 19th spot and pay 3 power. But you also get a benefit, so I would be able to rescue a card and gain a coin. Alright, and that is our turn. Let's go to the Automa. Alright, so let's flippity flip him over. Automa does not gain a progress. Phew, but it is going to move. Alright, so northernmost Automa is gonna sweep. It's only gonna sweep that coal stone, which again we didn't really want anyway. So let's see what we get instead of that. We get a clue stone. Okay, so we removed a coal stone to get a clue stone. This one allows us to solve, and if we melded it, we gain 1 money per solved quest. Okay, interesting. We could try and go hard into solving quests since we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, literally 5 quests out on the board for the taking. Alright, and it's not going to take an explore action, so it's just going to move 2 spaces. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk. Now that bottom mech, though, it is going to be a little devious because the Automa does have 3 stars out, so it's going to take a corruption action. Now, corruption actions are kind of like explore actions. You're going to look 0 to 3 spaces away from it and see if there's a spot with corruption. It doesn't care what type of corruption, what number of corruption, or how much corruption is on that spot. And currently, it is on a spot with corruption. It's on the weird forest. And what that number next to the corruption symbol means is it's going to take that much corruption from that area. So it's just going to grab 1 corruption from the topmost area right here and put it into its supply. And according to the progress card, each corruption is worth 2 money at the end of the game. I don't even want to count up how many points the Automa has, because look at all this crap. Oh jeez. Alright, but it's back to our turn. Alright, for my turn, I want to play and then move. What we're going to do is we're going to play Akiko, player in the active row. We're going to gain her core value, which also is going to give us an additional power because we have 1 star out. So we gain 2 power by playing Akiko. And you can take the core value before the action or the action before the core value, it doesn't matter. And then we're also going to place a worker on Akiko, but we're not going to use it to gain a face-up meteorite. We are going to use it to solve. And we're going to solve the Weaken the Leviathan quest. So we are on Hex 19. We're going to take the worker off and put it back into our supply. We must pay the solve cost right here, which is 3 power. And we gained power from Akiko, so we go down to 1 power. We could have also used these MAC tokens to act as power if we didn't have it. And then we're going to gain the solve benefit. So we can rescue a card from our active row to our hand. What that means is we're going to take a card from our active row, take all the workers off, and put it back into our hand for use in the future. What I want to do is I want to take this quest stone and put it back into my hand. So I'm going to put that red worker, put it right over here, because there are lots of quests out on the board and I want some of them. And then we're also going to gain 1 money from the supply. And then our quest gets slotted right at the top over here. And it's not going to give us an ongoing benefit like the item right here. We don't get that core value or anything. It just sits up here and it, again, makes our stars worth more. Alright, and finally we're going to move out on the board. Okay, and we're going to move into this hex right here. So let's gain this map token and then reveal it. Okay, it's number 18. It's the Mountain Pass. If we gather there, we can gain an adjacent face-up card, so any of these 2 cards right here. And once we remove the corruption, we can meld a meteorite. But we also have to add some corruption to that puppy right there, so let's go ahead and add at least 8 corruption. So you've got 3 guile corruption, 3 more guile corruption. Oh man, okay, 5 guile corruption, so that's definitely higher than 8. Kind of sucks all that guile corruption that's coming out since I went so hard into power. Maybe let's go ahead and get some more guile cards. Hey, incentivizes us to do that. Alright, but it's time for our Automa's turn. So let's go ahead and reveal their top card. They are going to gain a progress. So they're going to move right there. And then the northernmost Automa is going to sweep before it moves. So it's just going to remove this 1 quest, befriend a local legend. Not too bad because we also have other quests out. And we get another quest. Lure and confront the cave monsters. It wants us to be on the 17th spot, which actually isn't too far away from us. And its power is transfer the top corruption from each adjacent location to your location. That's a weird one. That's a really weird one. Interesting. Alright, but then our top mech is going to move. It is going to do the explore action, and it is on an unexplored tile, so it's going to gain that map token, and it'll flip it over, and we get Tarkovsky's lair. And this lair is special because it's got the 20 image on it, so we put out the 20 corruption token. This can only be gained by spending 10 power and 10 guile. It is only worth as much as the other corruption tokens are, however, it is its own category on the goal board. Okay, and that final mech at the bottom, it can't take that corruption action, so it's just going to move 2 spaces. Bzzt, bzzt. It's back on the fishing village. It loves to fish. Uwe Rosenberg is piloting that mech, I think. Alright. Back to our turn. Okay, so we're going to play and gather. What we're going to do is we're going to gather first. Alright, okay, so we're going to gather at this location. It allows us to take an adjacent face-up card. We're going to take the repair a damaged mech quest and get that into our hand. So we're going to refill it right there. We get a gear stone. It allows us to upgrade. Alright. And then we're also going to use our Deceptor Crystal again to include the bottom benefit right here under all that corruption, which is meld a meteorite, so we have to spend 1 guile in order to do that. So let's spend a guile and let's meld a meteorite. Now we have 2 meteorites we can meld. We can either meld this quest stone, which gives us $1 per quest we control, but we only control 1 quest right here. So I think the better idea would be melding this aid stone right here, which allows us to gain 1 money per orange corruption we have, and we have 2 orange corruption. So let's go ahead and meld that. They do include risers for the boards, but it's still a little finicky. Okay, and we're immediately going to gain 1 money per orange corruption that we have. So that's going to be 2 moolah right here. Okay, so that was our gather action. Now we're going to play. What we're going to do is we're going to play our quest stone, and gathering first was a strategic choice. Because we do get an extra power when we play this quest stone if we have a melded meteorite, and we do right down there, so we gain 2 power from the quest stone. And we're going to pop on this red worker to activate the quest stone's ability, which is gain 1 face-up quest to our hand. And we're going to grab Cure the Whale of Parasites, which we can pop a blue worker on. We don't have a blue worker, but we can grab one in the future. To pay a guile and a power to gain the top corruption at your location if it's a 3 or 4. And there is some top corruption out there that's a 3 or 4, so that'll help us get corruption easier. And also the Automas are going to grab corruption, and maybe that will reveal top corruption that's 3 or 4. So we're going to gain this quest to our active row right there. And that is our play action. So let's go over to the Automa. Alright, what's the Automa going to do? The Automa is not going to gain a progress. Wow. So let's go ahead and move on to movement. So the topmost Automa is going to take a corruption action because it does have at least 3 stars. And it's going to grab 2 corruption. Now, the 20 corruption that it's right on does not count because that's a separate action for the Automa. So it's just going to go for normal corruption. I am on this spot, however, so it's going to ignore this spot where I am, even though it has corruption. It's going to look 0 to 3 spaces away from it. 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to move over to the Stormy Sea and grab the top 2 corruption as denoted by the number next to the symbol. So it's going to pop these guys off and put it in its supply. Alright, and that middle Automa is just going to move 1 space. Bzzzt, into the impact zone. Alright guys, I think that's a good place to leave our part 1 off. This playthrough has gone for a bit long. I don't want you guys getting worn out. This game, even solo, this game does take quite a while, but I know I do tend to over-explain some stuff, so thank you for bearing with me. And my goal was to have at least 1 melded meteorite, 1 upgraded item card, and 1 solved quest at the end of part 1, and we achieved that. So you guys got to see kind of a few of the more important aspects of the game. And we also have 1 star out, which I wanted to have more than 1 star out, but the game's kind of a slow burn. I believe that we will get more stars out in the second half of this playthrough. So thank you guys for tuning in tonight, watching me play Expeditions. Oh my god, I keep forgetting to refill that spot, man. What is it with that? Okay, anyway, I hope you guys had a fun time. I hope you guys tune in for part 2. Hopefully I don't make as many tiny mistakes as I did in this one. And I hope you guys all have a great night. Get some good sleep and feel reinvigorated for tomorrow. My name is Richard. This has been Bedside Tabletop.